All right, folks, good morning. This is Jaime Oikle from runningrestaurants.com. We are here with a Cracking the Restaurant Labor Crunch episode. I want to thank our Diamond sponsor, Performance Food Service, for helping us with this show. Excited to do that. But this is great. Thank you, Mark, so much for joining me. This is Mark McDonnell, founder and CEO of LaSalle Grill there in South Bend, Indiana. And whenever I think of South Bend, I think of Notre Dame. Is that a fair statement?
It is, though. We're kind of pulling away from that, probably most due to one person, our former mayor, Pete Buttigieg, where if you get on a plane this in from South Bend, people would have to go, you'd have to pause and go, where Notre Dame is located. Now they know South Bend because of Pete Buttigieg, who ran for president, our former mayor, and now is Secretary of Transportation. So he kind of put South Bend back on the map. They were always known as a big industrial base. Studebaker, Bendix Brakes, Singer Sewing Machine. They had a ball band, which became Uniroyal. They were really heavy industry until the 60s and into the 70s, and now we're information because of Notre Dame pursuing technology, a technology-based type of education and center. And we're very good for transportation just because of our location where it is. You can ship from here to 80% of the United States in 2 days. So it's very advantageous for that logistics business.
I was out that way this summer on a trip with my daughter, looking at colleges. We did pass by South Bend. Great school, great location where you guys are. But let's get into the restaurant. The longtime operator. I've talked with Mark, and we have an interview on our site that's I think probably an hour long where we get into his business, and it was a great session if you can get to that. But but today we're talking about the labor crunch, and then you guys are decidedly an upscale place, at least the main property is, although I know you span everything from catering, and so you've seen all the stuff. I know COVID obviously offered challenges for you. Tell me where you are right now.
Well, we are a year and a half past the date that it happened on March 16th, I think it was 2020.
Yeah.
And it's kind of done a different route than I would have expected on the comeback. We have plenty of volume. We don't have, like many places, we don't have enough staff to properly serve them and cook the food and do all the things that we're known for. So we have to been very careful about how much business. As I tell people, we're throttling reservations depending on where we are with staffing. Though in the last 2.5 to 3 weeks, we have seen a change in the volume of staff, of potential staff coming through the various channels. And staffing is slowly, but steadily improving.
Well, we talked really briefly before we started recording, and you feel we're sitting here in mid-October at this point, and you feel some of that might be the employment benefits coming to an end. You think that's impacting what you're seeing now in terms of incoming leads? Not sure.
I don't know whether it's the only thing that seems to be coincidental with the improvement. The last checks were issued mid-September. Now we're at mid-October, 4 weeks later. Has the money run out, from the people who were staying home? We had a few of those. We didn't have a great extent. Most of our longer-term staff came back. The people we wanted to come back came back.
Sure.
And they're doing very well. The volume is good. People... that's another subject. Probably the people that are coming. We are seeing a lot of new customers, and I think a lot of that was what we're calling COVID money people. The people who got multiple checks from the government, who were making pretty good money on unemployment, they were coming out, they were spending. Not necessarily the same clientele we'd always see in the past, but it's still they're spending money. They're leaving gratuities, and the staff is happy, and I'm happy about that as well.
I have a
Though,
question
sure,
about the you already mentioned it. You have throttling back reservations. That has to be the most frustrating experience for an operator, to know you have the volume there but can't support it based on staff. And I've experienced it as a customer going into places, seeing empty tables and knowing they're not seating them because they don't have the staff, not because
yes.
they don't have the tables. It's such a different thing than you would have ever seen before. So that must be frustrating. And you guys, again, very, high end property, very well known, established, good perceived. So in terms of the attraction of labor, you're I would think towards the top of the folks where people look at, but even a challenge for what the point is, even a challenge for you guys. What have you done in some instances to attract folks, to keep folks?
Well, keeping folks, we are adopting a better management strategy. We are focused on building a better culture, um, and training more, sharing where the business is with more of the staff. Some don't care, but some are really invested in it. We used with some success social media, Instagram, and more to the point Facebook, to attract some people, and that network seems to be improving. And then we fine tune Indeed. I would get calls from a young lady that works from Indeed, and I just was kind of ignoring it, saying, I know how to do this. I called her, and I just thought she was going to try to sell me, get me to spend more on Indeed. But she was very helpful in how to make Indeed work better. If you're not getting the searches, to close out a job, copy, alter your job description or whatever, or the title, and repost it with a new budget and everything. And then throwing, which did cost more money, we threw a wider net, about a 50-mile ring around South Bend. And that has attracted some people who aren't too far away to commute. And we've hired a couple of those people. So our results have been better because we got some help from I guess she's our rep. And I'd be happy to share her contact with anybody who wanted to do it. She's based in Connecticut, but she was very helpful, and I appreciate what she did for me.
Yeah, I think I've heard stories about the job platforms, and Indeed is a big one as being a good feed for leads. But I'm wondering, some of the feedback I hear too is, hey, maybe perhaps this happened to you or others. You get the request interviews, or people not showing up, and then you onboarding, and talk about that process. What are you seeing there in terms of percentage of people that come in? And
we had a lot of that. No call, no show. You set it up. It sounds good. You think you've got somebody, and then they ghost you.
Yeah.
And that was part of what I saw 2 weeks ago. A kid came in that I'm now founder and president emeritus. My daughter took over the company earlier this year. So she is the owner, but it put me in a position of being able to kind of filter the applications, send them on, do some of the first initial legwork to free them up to run the restaurant and work with the staff we have. So this kid shows up, and he's 10 minutes early. And I go, could that be the guy that I contacted through Indeed? It was. And the second interview he came in, he showed up 10 minutes early, and he's hired. He seems to be fitting in. And then we had a similar occasion. We got another cook from the same place this kid was at, and he's been working out very well. So we're breathing a little easier now, but we're still, as I tell my staff, keep hiring, keep looking. We need to constantly refresh because there's still,
Mhm.
I always called Indeed a lot of the applicants tire kickers. They're just seeing what's out there, seeing what you'll offer, and picking and choosing. But they're tire kickers point two. Oh, they're coming in and working a couple weeks. I guess this isn't enough for me, or they get the first paycheck and gone. Just maybe that's been
Sure.
two people in the last couple months.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, and I did an interview earlier today, that phrase ABR, always be recruiting, like especially now, keep that funnel open. And what we're seeing, other feedback is you may have a person, think you have a person, boom, they get captured by someone else because
Oh yeah,
there's no shortage of opportunities.
that's the other thing. The speed of which you respond
Hmm.
is crucial
Hmm. Yeah.
because other
Boom.
people are doing the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. So I jumped onto LaSalleGrill.com, one of your properties, and I just happened to click on the employment tab, and you have a web form here that may be a lead for you. I do notice your wages obviously are very competitive, and you said before we started recording, people are asking about health coverages and benefits. What's going on in that landscape that is different from 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years? You have been doing this a long time.
Yeah, as I said, when I've opened 30 years ago, it was one of the things we did to be an employer of choice. Being the employer of choice
Mm-hmm.
was a
Mm-hmm.
thing I got from the chain I worked for, and back in the 70s and 80s, and they ran their company very well, and they said we always must be the employer of choice. So when I opened the restaurant, we offered uh, health care, life, and down the road we did a 401k, and it really meant a lot back in the 90s into the 2000s as the millennial generation came. Then you lose some of the people who either age out of our business or move on to other things. You get younger people, and as we saw the millennials, as they get closer to 40 now and have families, they're starting to realize, hey, we're not as bulletproof as we were in our 20s. We need some health insurance, and I've got a couple kids, and I want to have insurance for them. So we've had to get really competitive with that as well, and go back and pay more attention to our benefits package, and constantly look for something that is affordable and yet has really good coverage. So, and that's another cost
Yeah.
of doing business. It's become more costly to do business, and you've got to have the volume.
Well,
It's
it begs the question, and again, you've done this for years, and so it's changed. But now, cost increase, and you can't operate the way you used to. There's no more space. You really have to much more efficiencies in the restaurant and the operation. What are some big takeaways maybe the last year has done operational for you to maybe have some flexibility with your margins?
well, eliminating waste
Hmm.
in everything is crucial. We're very careful about ordering, and so far, I knock on wood, the vendors, the food service vendor, our mainline vendor, which is local, Stan's Food Service, has been very helpful. They have a store at their plant, and it's a couple miles away from us. We go to that store a lot. I find myself, as the person who has the most free time, running to grocery stores for 6 heads of romaine rather than a case
Hmm.
in which you're not sure what you're going to get. Uh, Fresh herbs from the farmer's market, things like that in smaller bunches. Uh, we went from cutting our own meat to pre-cut, and so far that has, though the per pound price is higher, your labor and your waste are out of the equation, and so we've found that has helped our margins as well, because we're for all intents and purposes mostly a steakhouse,
Yeah.
and red beef is 50%, and red meat is about 50 to 60% of the menu mix. So
Yeah.
we're not cutting much of our own fish anymore, where we can avoid it and get a decent price on a pre-portioned fresh fish. I think the only thing we're cutting is salmon, which is fairly simple to do,
Yeah.
and there isn't much waste. In terms of the productivity, that's still a challenge. People are not as productive as they used to be, and it's kind of, we're still teaching life lessons and passing down knowledge from one generation to another about what work is and what's expected.
Right.
The definitely with the millennials, there is a more the life work balance is more important to them than it was for baby boomers like me. I've worked since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And did something because I wanted to have some money to spend, and I just
going.
always work when I have to.
Question about on the efficiency side, have you guys seen technology play a role? Is there anything you're doing with that has maybe taken someone who used to spend 40 hours, they spend 20 hours now? I mean, have you found some savings there?
We have instituted that online. I will say ADP has improved over the years. We were caught up in a scandal of a local payroll processor where we ended up losing 35 grand in tax money that he'd spent, or that
that's no fun,
didn't get paid. So we've switched back to ADP, and they have been very helpful in calculating things for us. The next step is to get back on an online scheduling platform, and utilizing technology to ease that job for our managers so they can do more productive things, training the staff and interacting with customers and doing a better job of selling. I think one of the things that has always helped me, and I'm not trying to blow smoke for you, Jamie, necessarily, but people like you, restaurantowner.com, Bill Marvin, the restaurant, all that is out there to do a better job in this business, to improve your knowledge, it's all out there. It costs a little money these days, but the cost to value ratio is negligible. I don't mind paying to subscribe to you, to many of them, to running restaurants, the restaurant Rockstar. There is so much knowledge out there to be had. All you have to do is pay attention to it and put the things that are apropos to your operation, put them into practice. Taking action. That's the important thing.
Yeah, it's not a secret buried somewhere in a vault. The information is out there. I mean, you can grab a book or one of these, but online, Google something, find us and some of the other folks that you mentioned. It's out there, and just
I try to balance my reading between fiction and nonfiction, and most of the nonfiction is business related stuff.
Yeah,
like Simon Sinek. Where is it here? I didn't think much of this book, but once I got into it, it's got some good stuff, and everything starts with why.
Yeah.
And that's been a great book.
Put that on the list. Put that on the list for the library. So, guys, as we start to wrap, I'm curious if you've done, and you kind of mentioned it, anything with the menu. Did you shrink it? Did you cut hours? And how else have you kind of gone through this COVID struggle?
Well, we did. We when we first started back last year, and there were restrictions on how many people you could seat, what percentage of the restaurant.
Oh yeah.
But once that opened up, we chopped it back, and we were operating Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. A couple months later, and it was by the end, maybe November, December, we added Tuesday back. We used to be open 6 days, Monday through Saturday. So far, we have not brought Monday back, and having those 2 days in a row has been a recruiting has helped our recruiting, I think, because we have 2 dedicated days back to back that you are off. Everybody's off.
Hmm.
Well, some of the managers I work, my daughter works, our general manager. Generally, we come in on Monday and get a few things done when there's no interruptions. Um, our menu we shaved back considerably, and now we are slow every week adding one more item back. And many
Hmm.
people go, "Hey,
Hmm.
whatever happened to the rack of lamb? It's back.
Hmm.
Whatever happened to the breast of duck? That's back." Certain things that were favorites are back. We never cut. We looked at the top 10 sellers and entrees. We kept them, and maybe we got down to 9 one time. We did cut back on fish, fresh fish, things that have a short shelf life. We were careful, not to have too much of that on hand, again, to reduce the waste and spoilage. But all that stuff, we're slowly coming back online to meet the expectations of our guests.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, and I know I'm sure you questioned yourself along the way. But as we wrap up today, any closing thoughts you'd like to share with owners around the country that are like you, have put on the hats, have now passed the torch to the next generation? Any other last words of wisdom?
Well, always be engaged. I think somebody said, it might have been Joel Cohen, you got to be the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And never turn down a chance when the media calls you uh, to weigh in on this. I've weighed in with the local media about the labor situation. It's important to be the go-to person, to always have your brand in the face of people.
Mm.
That is crucial. Uh, a lot of restaurateurs already know this; they do this, but if you're a shy person, get over it. It's hard being a shy person in
Yeah.
this business. You've got to have an outgoing personality. You've got to be able to speak off the cuff to develop that. My father was an on-air personality in a small town on the radio,
Oh, how
so
about that?
I've been in front of a microphone all my life, and it doesn't bother me. And not that I seek out all that publicity, but it sure pays off, I think. And that's one thing I think sometimes gets overlooked.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, good. Yeah, good advice. Absolutely.
And
Getting the be and to elaborate on be the mayor as a philosophy. That means, yeah, but get yourself out in front of people, both inside and outside of your restaurant, so that you're a personality in the marketplace. Would you kind of echo that?
yes, and
Yeah.
be engaged with uh, the government as well. That has paid off.
Hmm.
Uh, I hate to say, and I think it might have been John Tapper. I heard him on a snippet of a podcast talking about how an industry like ours, the independent restaurants, so fiercely independent. We want to make our own way. We don't want government assistance. We don't want to pay too much taxes. But we have become reliant to a great extent through this whole pandemic on government
Yeah.
and everybody else's tax money that we pay in. Um, it's a little sad, but I don't think we could have done it. And a lot of that came because restaurants, through the National Restaurant Association and your state association and a local one, if you have it, being organized and having a voice of what is going on and what is legislated that may or may not affect you is very important. You need to be on top of that. And one of the reasons that there is the PPP, the first and second round, many grant programs statewide, citywide, there has been a lot of help, and yet there is the RRF, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, that was supposed to be 120 billion, came out earlier this year. It was got down to a pool of 28.5, and it didn't go very far.
Hmm.
And it's sitting in limbo behind the infrastructure bill, the $3.5 trillion that Congress and the president want to push through because it is COVID. The restaurant relief fund is COVID related, and they do not want anything attached to that bill that's COVID related. Well, COVID isn't over, and it needs to be prioritized, and that is a matter of going to, get in touch with your legislatures. The NRA makes it easy. There is another independent organization, Saving Restaurants.
Yeah, they've done a good job with the government. Yeah,
and it's easy to just click on, send a message to your legislature. Do not forget about us. We need some more help to get over this, and I think once that is accomplished, we should be in the clear, as long as we don't have the pandemic to deal with. That's kind of out of control. It looks like there's relief in the supply chain, potentially getting those freighters unloaded and getting them on trucks and rail cars and getting the things to us that we wait months for sometimes.
Yeah, the story has the ending has not been written yet to this
No.
pandemic. We're close. We're hoping we're on the final chapter. But yeah, to your point, the government funding has been an important piece for a lot of folks, and stay engaged to make sure that happens. So we're going to wrap. Mark McDonnell from LaSalle Hospitality Group out there in South Bend, Indiana. Awesome having you. You guys are ground on the feet, long and seen so much. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank Performance Food Service for being the sponsor of the Labor Crunch show. Appreciate those guys. So once again, I'm Jaime Oikle from runningrestaurants.com. We'll see you in the near future. Thanks much. Bye-bye.